Every so often, I cover something TYT is doing. Usually, it's them saying something that I fundamentally disagree with, like the Nerf bomb stuff that Cenk Uygur is pushing out, or covering the debate with Cal, or something that TYT may be doing, maybe losing staff or something to that effect. This, however, Cenk Uygur has been making rounds talking about lefty issues, and he's been doing this with mainstream media. And when given the opportunity, he's been going after mainstream media and the way that they organize their coverage of political events, particularly around lefty candidates, or let's say non-coverage of lefty candidates. In this particular case, he's talking to Brian Stelter on CNN. And the conversation turns to Ocasio Cortez with this thought that, hey, she should do more interviews. She's not doing enough interviews. People need to get more coverage to her. And in some way lamenting that she's been able to go around corporate media in order to get their message out and talk to her base, her supporters. The wild part about this is, and the amazing part about this is the fact that they're making this argument at all. When Ocasio Cortez was running in that race, she was decidedly ignored. Now, Cenk Uygur brings that up, that you ignored her when she was running against Crowley. You ignored her because you didn't believe she had a chance of winning because you thought Crowley had all of the cash. And you have a bias towards money, meaning you have a bias towards boy candidates. The candidate with the most money gets your attention. Now, I don't even know how Stelter could argue with this, but this, that's too close. We don't like you saying that, Uygur. But Uygur is absolutely right, and he's logically right. A media organization's job is not to present you with reality. The media organization's job is to maximize their profit. They're a corporation like anybody else. It's just so happened they maximize their profit off of giving you reality-ish information. In this particular case, they have a selective amount of time that they want to contribute to particular races and candidates and so forth. And within that window of time, it makes all the sense in the world that they would focus on the candidates who they think will win or races that are more likely to go in a particular direction. Now, 90% of the races are decided by the side with the most money. So they end up focusing on the side with the most money. That makes all the sense in the world. And that is exactly what takes place. And that is the point that Uygur is hitting him on and torches Stelter on this. And at a certain point, I think Stelter, I'm pronouncing his name horribly, but he backs off because I think he realizes Uygur is right in the point that he makes here. Let's show this. I'm going to show an image while letting it play out because I don't necessarily want them to demonetize the video. They demonetize these videos all the time. If you enjoy the content, by the way, while I'm in the middle of this, please feel free to support the channel through PayPal or Patreon. My wife likes to say even $1 helps because that is absolutely true. Let's play it out.
Cenk, as Trump is to Twitter, is Ocasio Cortez to Instagram? Is that one of the lessons here? She's using a new platform in a new way?
Well, I mean, look, you can say that Trump was untethered from the donors in a sense as well because he didn't raise enough money from them. And so hence he was able to speak out more vociferously on social media as Ocasio Cortez does on the left. But I got to say one thing in her defense from what you just mentioned, Brian. Look, you say she doesn't do enough interviews on television now, but let's be fair. When she needed those interviews, you guys weren't there for her. So before the election, almost no one in the mainstream media covered.
But our job isn't there to be there for anybody.
No. But Brian, it isn't about being there or being or not. It's about you guys didn't think she had a chance, so you didn't give her any outlet at all. And so the people in her district didn't get a real sense of who had the better point of view. She overcame that anyway and went on to win. So if you think, hey, well, she's got to go on television to speak to the people, apparently she didn't. She had to go on the Young Turks and social media to speak to the people, and she did, and she won. So she doesn't owe television anything. She doesn't owe the corporate Democrats anything. She doesn't owe Republicans anything. So she can go on and make her case anywhere she likes, and it's incredibly effective.
She's an elected official. I'm
more
sorry.
Interviews, the better.
But she's an elected official. She certainly owes the media, the public, her voice. And
she is an elected official. That's true. She does owe the public her voice. That's true, seeing as she wants to get the public's vote. But she doesn't have to go through corporate media to do that. She doesn't owe corporate media anything. At the time where you guys should have been interviewing her to show a disparity between Crowley and her point of view to allow the public to make their choice, you didn't do that. You didn't care about that race because that race was irrelevant because Crowley raised so much money. He was a dinosaur. He's been there for 20, 30 years. He's not going anywhere. Oh, you were wrong. She found a more effective platform in engaging the public. That's who she owes. The media is just the conduit between those two things. It's not something that she owes. That needs to be very clear. There's a difference between the media and the public. If she has a way of getting access to the public in order to get her point of view out, then she goes that way. But that's not a requirement of going through mainstream media. Clearly, it's not. And by the way, she's been on CNN numerous times. So even this argument is to some degree bunk. They just want her. He just wants her on his show, and she declined. Let's keep going with this.
Answering questions. I take your point about her not getting enough attention before she won, but I don't think that's particularly unusual for somebody running for Congress. She was not running for president. I think then it would be a different story.
All right,
No,
Cenk, thank you.
I think that.
Sorry, Cenk, last word to
Just
you.
real quick, look, I think that unfortunately the media covers people with more money, and a lot of that is corporate money. And so it's not just about Ocasio Cortez, it's about the future. And in 2020, will you cover progressive candidates that run uncorrupted? And my guess is no. And then you'll turn around and sometimes blame them
Journalists should
later.
cover progressive candidates and conservative candidates. We should cover them and make sure people know about both of them. But I hear your point.
Absolutely. Absolutely, but unfortunately, you give an advantage to people with more money, and you do it all the time. And unfortunately, I think it aids and abets corruption.
I would love to discuss that more in the future. I'm not sure how we support candidates that have more donor money. That's your argument, that because they have more donor money, they get more news coverage?
No, Brian, are you saying that not everybody in the media says, well, that person has a better chance of winning because they have more money, so there's this obsession with who's raised more money and hence is more legitimate? That's the view in the mainstream media, which is not held in the actual elections.
All right, interesting.
He says, all right, interesting. It's interesting because Uygur is right. I'm sorry, he's absolutely 100% right. You have multiple races, 435 seats in House of Representatives, if I'm not mistaken, 100 seats in Congress. Now, all of these races are to some degree important because these people are going to be decision makers and make policy choices in the direction of that the country goes. Now, CNN should give attention to all of these races because all of the content that they get will be interesting and relevant to somebody within the course of all of these different seats that people are running for. But that's not what takes place. They give priority to people with the most cash because 90% of the time, that's the side that wins. What's the point in lavishing a huge amount of attention on a race where you don't believe the candidate is going to win? Uygur is absolutely right. They're motivated to behave this way. But by the same token, if they're motivated to go towards the races with the side with the most cash and to lavish attention on people with the most cash, what you're effectively saying is the bought candidates are the ones we're going to lavish the most attention on. Meaning the amount of worth that a candidate can generate. Mind you, that's an investment being made into the candidate. So if that money is by oil and gas, do you honestly believe that candidate is going to go hardcore against oil and gas interests, even if the planet is at stake? Their number one job is to get elected, and they believe that getting elected is doing so with the side with the most cash. Mainstream media also takes that point of view. They're playing on the same playing field, and so that's where they lavish attention. Cenk Uygur, on this particular point, is absolutely right. And Stelter, I would imagine at the end, says, yes, that's interesting, because ultimately he would like to say if you were asked 3 in the morning between him and his God, okay, you're right. We're incentivized to behave this way. Shout out to Uygur on this. Good job. Good job. Who's here this morning? Cenk has bought $20 million from Fusion, changed his tune immediately. Carol, fair enough. But on this, he's right. I mean, if he could be bought all day, doesn't make him wrong. There's stuff I would imagine that Stalin might say, or Hitler might say, and you might say, okay, fair enough, he's right. There's stuff that Donald Trump says every so often that I say, okay, yeah, that's right. Doesn't necessarily mean that I like the person. But compared to everybody else that's on that channel or that particular network, meaning CNN, he is decidedly to the left. And on this particular line of argument, he is right. He is absolutely right. More unfounded BS from Cenk haters. Cenk is a Republican that's cashing in on his progressive movement. I don't believe that, Brian Nugent. I know at one point he had, he was a Republican, but he's, I don't know where you get that from. Now, you may say he's a capitalist, fair enough, but I would imagine that there are some people who are on the left who still consider themselves capitalists in the way that they go about their affairs, but still want things decidedly further to the left in regards to policy and politics and funding and money and all this other stuff. So it's like, come on, be fair. Be fair. You can hit them, but be fair. American Insurgent. I always see people who hate Cenk and TYT make the vaguest attacks with no actual facts to back it up. It seems TYT haters overall are just part of the hyper-emotional left. I love that, hyper-emotional left. Look, I've criticized Cenk Uygur myself on this channel. It's just that, you know, not everybody is wrong all the time. Not everybody is right all the time. And there are going to be some points of view that the people take that I would agree or disagree with. This channel is not necessarily dedicated to just taking a point of view. It's going about what I believe is right. And saying yay or nay based on the items that come up. If it's a point of view where, let's say, somebody like, what's that white nationalist, Steve Bannon, whatever you want to think of Steve Bannon, his political acumen is not horrible at all. Actually, he's often politically right. Doesn't make him a great person, no. Not necessarily somebody I want to have coffee with, no. But by the same token, I can still look at something that the person has said and evaluate whether I think it's right or wrong in an objective reality. In this particular case, I think he's right. Whatever you want to think of Cenk, I think he's right. So I'll leave this here. I'm not going to keep this long. This video wasn't supposedly an evaluation of Cenk Uygur. This video was just an evaluation of something that I think Cenk Uygur is saying is right. And that is a complete problem with mainstream media with a certain degree of obsequiousness to cash. But they're incentivized to be that way because what's the point in paying attention to races that aren't going to win? Meaning, if you didn't believe Ocasio Cortez wasn't going to win, then what's the point in looking at the race? And if 90% of the races win with the most cash, then those are the races you're going to look at. You're incentivized based on the process itself being a cash-driven organization, meaning mainstream media, maximizing their cash, and having a limited window and a ton of stories in which to cover. You choose. And it just so happens that the ones that you choose are the ones with who has the most money, who's the most bought. That's the person that we want to bring into the limelight because that's the person we believe has the best chance. The most bought candidate. Whatever you want to think of Cenk, he's right on that particular point. So I'll leave this here because I have a few shows that I want to do today. But yeah, my goal in this is not necessarily to just be continuously for, continuously against. It's to evaluate what takes place. And I can only give a judgment call based on what the person is saying. You know, if you want to say that he's bought, fair enough, but doesn't necessarily mean he doesn't want to move the dial further to the left. And in this particular case, he's right about mainstream media. So I'll leave this here. Good job to Cenk Uygur. Clap of the hands from the Progressive Soapbox on this. So thanks all. If you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support this content through Patreon. There is a patron appreciation show that we do each week. It's going to either be through Friday through Monday. It depends on what's taking place. I try to do it over the weekends, but oftentimes it gets, depending on what takes place, is on Sunday. But either way, it's additional content that goes to my subscribers. And I'm always on the lookout for ways to try to give more back to the patrons in some way. I didn't like the show from last week. If I'm being honest, that show sucked. But the show this week will be better, and I will make sure that I'm using something from somebody, some content from someone else. So, not content, but suggestions from someone else. All right, guys. If you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support through Patreon. Thanks all.